Okay, this is me making notes on my series. This is a story, fictional. It's a big series, but this is one episode of it. Okay, and it's about Jane and Mike. Okay, I'm going to be reading my notes, so it's not going to flow like a story, but these are fictional stories that I'm writing, and they're copyrighted to me, so there's some of them are rough drafts, some are highlights, some of them are the actual part of the story. So anyway, let me get started. Now, Jane is a 62-year-old woman. She had just she is a widow, and her sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they helped her to get a job and have a place to stay, and helped her sell the house and all that and move. And she went to work for them. They own some cabins on Lake Care, Texas, and Victorson County. And remember, these are fiction, in Texas. And she has these, she runs these cabins on the lake. And on her day off, her days off are Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, she doesn't run the show during that time. And on one Thursday, she decided that she was going to drive around the lake to see all of the other cabins, and look at not just the ones she runs, but all the other ones all the way around the lake. And she's driving around, and as she was doing it, checking them out, see how they are and everything. Not for any competition or anything, just to see what's different about them and get a good idea. Now, she ran across a seafood restaurant on the southern side of the lake, and it's run by a man named Mike, and Mike is 64 years old when this all starts. Okay, so she decided she went in for lunch. She wanted to go in there for lunch, and when she went in there, it was dark at first. Like you walk in someplace and it's really dark, and then she heard this woman gasp, like, "Oh, whoa," this kind of thing, and gasp. And okay, when she looked up, and she had walked a little bit in and looked around and everything, and when she did, she suddenly saw people that were kind of like on the outside inside area, and where she had walked toward, and she was just shocked. It was people she hadn't seen in like 25 years. And these were people that when she was younger, of course 25 years she hadn't seen them, she was a member of a group of people, and basically they were computer geeks back when it wasn't cool to be. And they were ones that started off, help, they did the things of connecting the through telnet, connecting computer to computer, and not in each home, you know what I'm saying, through telnet they connected to one another's computers. And that was back in the day, before really the World Wide Web was anything like you would think it would be, and like it anything like you'd see now. Okay, and they had other ways, and there were a bunch of them in this really wealthy county, Victorson County. It was a really wealthy overall, not all, but overall county. And these were people who were, learning about computers when not many people had computers. And they had modems, like 300 baud modems. I had one. And they were just starting off. Well, they really got into it, and the whole county, and eventually worldwide. But she hadn't seen these people in 25 years. She kind of got out of it when she got married, and she married a military man, and they moved around a lot. So she really basically got out of it. And so let's see. And when she moved around with him, so she was no longer really part of that, because it wasn't like what it is today. Okay. Now, she had grown up in a town that's actually called the Outlaws, and that was one section of the county that wasn't wealthy, but she still had this interest, and she found ways to have she had her own and worked for it and all this stuff to have her when she was growing up, so she could be a member. Well, like I said, she got married. Now, because she grew up there, she did not have any property rights to buy a house inside of the rest of the county. So the whole deal with that, and so she didn't have any inheritance. Like I said, they helped her sister-in-law and her brother-in-law. They helped her and all that. Well, she had bought a small house. Like I said, they had to sell it. Oh boy, my notes are all mixed up, and now I am. So let's see. But her husband's, her husband's sister-in-law was a descendant, and he could and did own, like I said, the cabins. So, this is confusing. Okay, this is why I do them. It helps me to get them organized better. But anyway, she was a member of this group. They chatted, and they knew that not all of them were raised in the wealthy part. Okay, some of them weren't. But they still had these very strict rules. She left before these started. And what they did was they became so wealthy. They're called the original group members. Their children called them that, but as they became adults. But they were the original ones. They were members. They just called one another, another member. That's how they refer, these members. And anyway, now she left before they got so big. They helped one another out from way back then. Helped make businesses and spread all over the world, basically, wherever they could and wherever they felt like it. Okay. And they owned a lot of businesses, and like I said, they really helped one another out in various ways. So what they did eventually, they had a system to where anybody who was an original, and then their descendants and stuff, but anybody who was an original, they would pay like a little dues to be part of the membership. And they could do some work for them, and that would pay their dues, and they were sometimes called in to work. They work from home, computers or something, like whatever it is, whatever it requires. And but she left before all this started, so she didn't know about all this, that it had happened. And they would allow anybody who had been an original member and then came, somehow heard about it or whatever, they would allow them. But they pay these dues, and that means they have so many benefits. They actually get dividend checks, and so much more. But they are required, like I said, to pay the dues and work if called on. Now they have an option. They can option out, of course. Nobody owns anybody, and nobody owns this business. It's a need to know kind of business, and there's somebody who kind of helps to organize it, two people, Paige and Derek, but overall it's everybody's. Okay, but she left before all that. When they give these dividend checks, and you pay in and you work some, and because you were one of the original members. So anyway, when she saw them all, they all invited her over, come up, and how that happens, hugged her and said, "Where have you been?" And so she sat down, and they had really long talks, really long discussions about life, and she met people she hadn't seen, like I said, in 25 years, and wow, everybody talked about what's been going on in their life, their children, their whatevers, Okay, so now while they were, everybody was getting caught up with one another, they were so happy that they, really like having, to see everybody. Of course, like to see somebody they haven't seen in a while, that's somebody that's a good person, and she's a good person. Well, Jim, what's been going on, and she doesn't know about this, because it's one of those need to know basis things, and everybody knows that's how it is, so not everybody knows. But Jim, he runs the enforcement. Everybody knows that's one thing they know, and he trains people. It's not the police, it's not the sheriff, he has a business, and he trains people for various things from investigators, to be investigators. He even trains the police, the sheriffs, so many. And even the people who were members, original group members, and their descendants. For things like self-defense, martial arts, these things. Well, he has been come to task because some of the people who are living the outlaws, people who were kicked out of the group, whenever, they are trying to get in to. They basically are trying to cause problems, and there's a question if they might kidnap some of the original members. Now, this was back early in 2020, and with everything else going on in early 2020, and Jim heard about this and everything. He heard about it, so he's trying. He and the elders of the county and other people, they're trying to get as many of the original group members and their descendants back into the county. And well, Jim pulls Mike, the owner of the restaurant, aside, and he's also a original group member, both of them, and they have a discussion. They talk about it, and they say, away from the group, and they said that maybe because of the situation, they should offer. Well, they would already offer, but they wanted to discuss it. They, offer her to become, part of this whole system. Again, they would usually do that. She'd start paying membership fees, and she would work for them whenever they call them, and sign contract and all that. Is she has a choice, of course, like I said earlier, and but the situation's going on. They need places for people to, people that were coming back into the county for their own protection. They had an option to, if they wanted to or not, but they would have enforcement is huge and global. They would have people to help, to protect them from these people. These, they're actually outcasts. The outcasts, and well, because she runs the cabins, they thought that she runs a lot of cabins, that they would ask her, besides like they usually would, but to ask her that would be her first job with them, is to use the cabins for members that they have coming back in, back into the county from wherever, and that she would help them, to learn the county if they hadn't lived there before. There were other members that had, like their descendants and stuff, hadn't lived there before, but she would organize it all, and she would have, they would give some, there would be help, but she would organize everything for them, help them to get settled back in and such, but not totally all alone. So Jim left, saying he was going to go to the restroom. He called his adult daughter, Krista, and Krista is her name, and asked her if she would run a check on Jane, a background check, and whatever else they could find on Jane. And that they did, and it was clear, no big deal, nothing, just totally clear. And so when Jane left, they were sitting there for a long while. Jane left to go to the restroom. When she came back, while she was gone, the members that were there took a vote, and of course all of them said yes, she's in. And they really like her. She was always nice. She was always a good person back then. And even though she came from that town, not all the people from that town are bad. That's reputations can develop just because of a person where they live. We all know that. That's not a good thing. So they took a vote, and she's in. So then that's the first part of this. Okay. So anyway, that's enough for this one for now. These are fictional, like I said. Read the disclaimer in the description box below this video on YouTube. It's copyrighted to me. I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.